BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
This podcast is brought to you by the letter B. B is for bad language, so be warned, you might hear some of that.
And if you listen to that holidays episode, B is also a letter in Crouchy's phone book.
I mean, this has been a big hit, this game, hasn't it?
Massive. The ant brackets deck one, I think I get more tweets about that than anything at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it does make a lot of sense, though, doesn't it?
So who have we got under B's?
So you want me to go straight on to B's? Ben Insurance, which is self-explanatory. We've got...
It's always a name and a use, isn't it?
Name plus
Bill
use.
Driver. Bongo Oz. I don't know what that is.
Oz Bongo.
Someone called Oz who plays the bongos?
Brad Friedel.
What's the last message you sent Brad Friedel?
Oh, no. We're moving straight on.
Oh,
How about you read it but take out keywords?
yeah,
Can you
just
do that?
read the words that you're allowed to read.
Hacking, arrested, and cheers.
Fantastic. All right. Any
He
other
didn't get a
letters?
reply. If you...
Well,
wow.
is that the B's done, we think?
Yeah, another boat. The captain of a boat. Car beds. Fiona Bruce.
Fiona Bruce.
Oh, so you
kept in contact after the...
She goes to the Isle of Wight Festival sometimes.
Fiona Bruce goes to the Isle of Wight Festival.
You, Fiona Bruce and Sean Dyche.
Yeah. What a scenario.
What a three ball.
Yeah. Do you know what? Great time.
Anyway, that's the B's done. I'm excited for the C's. Good ones in the C's.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably time we got on with the show, isn't it, boys?
Yeah, that'd be nice. The pod's just got off to absolute shambolic start again.
You're a bit like Alexander the Great, aren't you, really?
Have I?
Peter Crouch has left the group.
No. But that was a really interesting Brexit conversation.
This is going to take it to a new low.
Excellent.
No one's ever put anything in my ear other than a cotton bud.
That would be on your Tinder profile if you were single.
Is your olfactory gland not being tickled by poo particles?
This podcast is the biggest con on the BBC.
We're having it off here. Hello and welcome to another episode of That Peter Crouch podcast with me, Peter Crouch. Tom Fordyce and Chris Stark are sat here with me ready to go. You all right, boys?
Yeah, I was until just before you arrived. I was upstairs in this pub and I saw a mouse run along the floor.
Really?
Yeah, an actual mouse.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Sums up the pubs we do this in, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not even offensive to this particular pub.
I love
it's just
it.
as it is.
I
It's
like
why
the
we
pub.
love it. Crouchy, have you ever had a pest problem that you've had to deal with at your house?
I've had a couple of pest problems, yeah. Funny enough, it was a mouse. Got in our bedroom and in the middle of the night, heard scurrying, looked over and saw the mouse on the side, and then obviously it was all hell broke loose. The lights came on. It went up into the curtain. So I went downstairs, I put rubber gloves on. I had no clothes on with rubber gloves, bouncing around trying to get this mouse out the curtains. For some reason I didn't want it touching my bare hands.
It's weird the mouse is up the curtain and still waiting for you there.
He went up the curtain, so he went in the inside of the curtain bit. So
He went through the lining?
Through the lining, and then that's why it took a while to get...
How did you get him out?
Well, we just sort of coached him down, like...
How?
Sort of fingered him down, like
You fingered a mouse wearing rubber gloves?
Fingered the mouse down. What's that mean?
No, so I've gone into the lining through the outside of the lining and just pushed him down, yeah.
Did you talk to the mouse as you were doing it to sort of gently encourage it down?
There's a lot of expletives.
And this is you and Ab. I'm assuming Abby's the other person that was helping you with this.
Yes.
Was she involved? Was she standing on the bed?
It's just on the bed. She didn't want to touch it or be near it. But
you
me
in
being the
gloves.
man that I am...
I've never heard of anyone actually just going and catching it themselves and then being so nice as to just release it.
Oh, yeah,
as
no,
well.
I think mice are all right, aren't they?
But does that solve the issue?
Very few mice are solo operatives.
Yeah, I don't like to think about that, but you can't unsee the mouse, can you?
No.
You know what I mean? So he needs to go, and then you just hope and pray that
He needs to
he's
go.
acting solo.
You need to go, my little friend.
Go enjoy yourself.
Go and enjoy
And
yourself.
watch a fox devour him on his way out.
I'm quite excited about today's podcast because for me it feels like we can get back to football. It felt like the last podcast took a very weird...
I have to say, we went off-piste on that last one. It was a blur. it was absolute carnage, wasn't it, at times?
Yeah, it was. I think every now and then with this podcast, there is one where it just goes wild.
It just went mental. I have to say it was one of my favourites, though.
So we'll do more on that in a moment, but let's start off with some listener messages, shall we, Chris?
Crouchy, what's the email address?
It's peter.crouch@bbc.co.uk.
Ryan says, one night after a stroll to KFC with a mate, we saw 3 men walk out of a bush with mole-like headlamps on. It turned out to be Arsene Wenger, Pat Rice, and a third coach who I didn't recognise.
Walking out of a bush is Arsene Wenger, Pat Rice. Will probably be Steve Bold.
Yeah, it would be Steve Bold, yeah. So when he says mole-like headlights, can we all picture that in our heads?
Yeah,
It's a head
You go
torch.
to like a cave or
Like
something.
through the mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
If Arsene Wenger went into a bush, right, would Pat Rice follow? Is that the kind of relationship they had?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, are they going for an evening stroll perhaps before a game? Clear
How
their
big is
mind
this
after
bush?
the
Maybe it's a shortcut back to the team hotel.
Also, don't
Maybe
shy
Arsenal
away from
playing.
it. Maybe they are up to something. Everyone has a private life. Everyone gets up to stuff. There's some people that you see and they look like, the most upstanding people. You don't really know much about them and they turn out to be absolute deviants.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that about these 3 people.
I'm glad.
A lady on the street's freaking the bed.
As Ludacris put so well.
In your younger years, Crouchy, you had a thing about bushes, though, didn't you?
It started at school. We used to come home from school, walk through the park, and jump in a bush on, I think it was Scotch Common. We progressed to somersaults into it. I had a few incidents where I started getting a few injuries, and I thought it was best to sort of put it
Would
to
you
bed.
like to go back to the bush?
I did enjoy it.
What sort of bush did you favour?
The bigger the better, really.
Was it the same bush every time, or was it different?
We did have our favourite bushes, and we used to stick to them, but we call them our bankers.
What was your single favourite bush?
There was a neighbour's house that he had a really springy one.
Should we crack on with the podcast, boys?
Let's do it.
Let's go,
right
let's
into
go.
this. Well, what's it about today?
This one's about tackles.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Right, Crouchy, I want to start off with a bit of tackling myth busting. Big myth about tackling. It hurts you more if you pull out.
This is just something that I even still half believe. It can't possibly be true. But it makes no sense, really, because if you do pull out and don't go into the tackle, then surely you won't get hurt.
Because your foot's not there.
Because your foot's not there, so you can't possibly get hurt. But it's something that I live by now. I still sort of trust it. I think it's just been so ingrained into me that, jumping out of a tackle is so frowned upon in the English game. I mean, there's things that I would much rather be accused of than jumping out of a tackle, which is a mad thing to say. It's a criminal, isn't it? It's a criminal offence in the English game.
It basically makes you change completely your opinion of that person's character.
Yeah.
If they pulled out of a tackle, you cannot trust that person ever again.
It really does. And I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it, because when I was a kid, my dad had to let me know that jumping out of a tackle was unacceptable. And the belief is, if you jump out of a tackle, you're going to get hurt. And also, it's one of the most embarrassing things that could ever possibly happen to you. They're 2 stigmas that aren't true,
No.
that I still live by.
There is no criminal sanction if you pull out of a tackle. You're not going to do a 5-year stretch for pulling out of a tackle.
But there's times where, a ball's broke and, say you've got an absolute lunatic coming hurtling towards you. You just throw yourself into them because you think, I can't look like I've bottled it, basically. And it's such an old school, ridiculous mentality, but it's something that I've carried with me sort of my whole life, really. But I wouldn't really want it any other way. Like in the relegation season that we had at Stoke, for instance, there was a couple of players pulling out of tackles that cost us goals. And I think about the magnitude of what's about to happen to us. The city, the people that work at the football club, everyone who plays for the football club, anyone who ever supported them, that club's going to get relegated, right? It could have been down to that 1 or 2 particular goals that you've jumped out of a tackle for.
Did everyone else at Stoke
outrageous.
think the same as you?
Yeah, well, everyone, yeah. As a football fan, right, when 2 people hurtle towards each other, the ball makes that noise and flies up into the air. I think we might be the only nation that celebrates that as much as a goal.
Yeah, it's true.
It's something that we've always loved. We've always loved the tackle. We've always loved, a first-minute, reducer. And I don't think they do. I don't think they do that in Spain. And listen, I'm not saying they're not dirty, because they can be. And in, South America, there's a lot of dark art, shall we say, in Italy as well. But I don't think there's many nations that celebrate a hard tackle in that way, like we do. And corners are another one. We just love a corner in this country, don't we? We go mental. When the ball goes out for a corner, we're all on our feet, aren't we? Come on, lads! Corner!
We're not going to score from this.
It's true. The statistics on corners, I would actually quite like to know how many goals actually do come from corners. It must be minimal.
I've looked at this. I think on average you get a goal from a corner every 8 or 9 games.
Really?
Yeah,
Incredible.
it's ludicrous.
Incredible.
Because, and this makes sense, like let's say the ball's in open play, if you're breaking and the defence is disorganised, what you're basically doing on a corner is saying, right, everyone get back in the box.
Get organised.
Let's stand still
Get
for a
all
bit.
the forwards back to defend it as well.
Let's work out exactly where we want to stand and then we're going to cross it.
So why do we stand up at corners? That's so true. As football fans, you get the noise, don't you, of all the chairs?
Yeah, the chairs go, rattles go, songs start.
That's right. Why are we
Whereas
doing it?
actually, he'd actually been much better cheering if he'd have got the crossing.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But then a short corner, the dismay when someone takes a quick corner, it's like, oh.
What about a late sort of 88th minute when the corner taker hits the first man off in
That's
the
a criminal
88th minute?
offence. You should serve time for that.
I think if you are a professional footballer and you cannot get a corner over the first man, I suggest you should lose a foot. Or something.
Lose a foot.
There's something
At least a toe.
I just think past the 80th minute mark, that's when that rule should come in.
When's the last time you heard Crouchy the phrase, let them know you're there?
I know what you're getting at there, but the game has evolved, and like when I first started, that was a regular saying. Win your battles all over the park, let them know you're there. The first tackle, the first header, that was what we all used to say. But I know it's a little bit old school, but there are certain values to that, and there are if you're the winger and I'm the left back, right, and I give you a hard tackle in the first 5 minutes, it makes you sit up, take notice and go, right, I'm in for an afternoon here. If the ball goes up for a header, I come in and smash you and head the ball away. There are certain players that would affect. And I think if you can get a slight edge on someone who might be more talented than you, then why not?
Here's another cliche, Chris, that professional players say, but also you and I when we're playing our five-a-sides in our Shinpads, which is...
Can I stop you there for a second? I actually didn't play in Shinpads last night, and I got absolutely clattered.
Did you?
I had a shocker last night. I sustained an injury.
Let's have a look.
It's not a major one, don't get me wrong.
Roll your trouser leg up.
Look at this.
No, that's it, is it?
I never had this problem when I was wearing shin pads at five-a-side. Now they're all digging into me.
Crouchy, as a professional footballer, this
You'd be out
abrasion...
for 2 months with
What are you
that.
saying?
I can't see anything.
There is. There's clearly that's going to come up. That's going
It
to
looks
swell
like
today.
lipstick.
Not lipstick. Why would anyone be kissing my
I
ankles?
don't know what you do. Your shin pads.
It's well annoying, mate. Like this whole shin pads.
Are you going to go back to shin pads?
What are you really?
Yeah.
Just remember, down the other end, they're thinking you're shit, and then they'll probably beat you.
The guys want you two to turn up as well. You've both said that you'll be there at some point.
Yes.
Do
the lads all wear shin pads in your...
Well, they're not anymore because there's podcasts, are they? This podcast is changing. Like, do you not see the messages? It's all people tagging in their mates who wear shin pads.
But I've had a lot of people that understand where I'm coming from. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's better not to wear them because it's quite clearly safer to wear them.
But that's
what
the point.
I'm saying is, they think you're a knob. It's like briefcase wanker, in the in-betweeners. You don't carry a briefcase to school.
Would you wear...
You won't get bullied.
If you were in a canoe, would you wear a life jacket?
Yes, of course.
So what's the difference?
That's
It's
safety.
cool to be safe, Peter.
Yeah,
No, I know. Listen, I didn't make the rules. I'm just saying that.
But you're enforcing them.
No, I'm not enforcing them. No, I advocate shin pads. I think that shin pads should be worn. However, the people that aren't wearing them at the other end will beat you 10-0.
I had a shocker at football yesterday. I had a really bad one. Nothing was going right.
You blow very hot and cold, though, don't you? You are as capable of the mid-air overhead kick as falling over your own feet.
But do you know what?
couldn't get near
Never
anything.
get too high and never get too low. And I can sense that you're really low with your performance. Just get right back on that horse and you'll play better next time and then you'll go, this is the best game in the world. It's a fickle game.
Annoying when it happens, isn't it?
It is.
What was the score?
8-2.
Yeah, that's not great, is it?
Might just go get another drink. We'll resume this again in a minute, mate.
Do we still want Crouchy to play five-a-side with us? It's going to be so disgusted by the standard.
How's the tackling in that environment? Like, obviously, we're talking about tackling today, aren't we?
Nominally.
Yeah. No, at my level, there's no slide tackles allowed, which annoys me because I don't know about you boys. The slide tackle is my favourite of all. Like, when it's a lovely wet surface and someone slides from distance, especially
like
when
the
it's...
Eric Dyer. What Eric Dyer on Ramos was almost a classic. 15 years out of date, unfortunately, but it was a beautiful sliding tackle.
The thing is, the fact that we're still talking about that now shows how much we still love
no
it.
one in Spain's talking about that, are they?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not a thing, is it? We love it. It was an amazing tackle. I mean, winning the ball fairly and hard and, coming out the other side and hurting the other player a little bit is something that we enjoy.
Particularly when it's Sergio Ramos, who has been booked more times than any other player in La Liga or Champions League history. Have a little bit of your own medicine.
Incredible. But having said that, I know we've gone a little bit old school, but I mean, some of the best defenders that I've ever played with didn't tackle.
No.
Ledley King was possibly the best. And he used to literally just read the game so well and take the ball off forwards. And he would be in games where we'd play in a pissing down rain and he wouldn't even have his shorts dirty and he was a centre-half. And you think, yes, we're all for like blood, guts and glory, aren't we? Which is amazing. And, that is our history, I suppose, in a lot of way. But like Ledley and Rio Ferdinand and these types of players, they were so good they didn't have to tackle.
Isn't that a weird idea? Like, philosophically, the best tacklers are the players who don't tackle.
You look at Virgil van Dijk at the moment, obviously the best centre-half in our league at the moment. When did you see him fly into a tackle? Very rarely.
I get the sense with him sometimes, Van Dijk, that he gets so bored because it's so easy for him that he just gives people a little head start.
Yeah.
It's like if you're racing against your kids. Go on, I'll give you 1, 2, 3. Now I'll go.
I was going to ask you how much you practice tackling, but can I give you this quote here from Guardiola? It's amazing. He said, I don't spend my time practicing tackles. You could probably do a better accent, actually.
What, a Spanish one?
Yeah.
For some reason, I've gone really blank on on accents.
Bit lispy.
Imagine your pet.
I don't... You went lispy and ended up going... I don't.
You need to speak where there was no S.
I know.
I don't spend my time
I'm not
practicing
even doing
tackles. You be the journalist in the room and ask him the question, and then he can reply.
Can I just ask you, Pep, how do you prepare for tackles?
I don't want to spend my time practicing tackles.
Extraordinary.
It was like Marlon Brando's The Godfather.
It was.
I don't spend my time.
Why talk about it? Forget about it. That was like Al Pacino or something. Bizarre. I don't know what's... I used to be all right. I don't know.
But he raises a good point. He doesn't bother with the practicing tackles.
What was the point of it? He's raising a point saying he doesn't bother learning tackles because... Yeah, I get what you're saying, because you should be... If you're in the right position, you don't need to do a last-ditch tackle. Positionally, you should be all right. You should be sound. You should be on your feet and making people make mistakes. It's not...
Is he not being a bit snobby there, though? Is that not a bit
I think so. There's a little bit of that.
Yeah,
I think,
it's a little bit like a top chef saying, I don't have toast. I don't eat toast.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to eat toast. You can be a top chef and still have toast for breakfast.
Yeah. I do get that. I do get what you're saying there.
Did you used to practice tackling at training?
Yeah. We used to...
You can't properly, can you?
No,
You're
not
gonna get
properly.
injured.
When we were kids, we used to practice it and stuff. I mean, it's just expected to come naturally to you. I mean, I wasn't a natural tackler. I didn't really have a clue what I was doing.
Yeah, but do they not at training have, say, like as massive teddy bears you can win in fairs?
Yeah.
Put the ball by those and say, right, absolutely fucking crunch. Do you know what I mean?
Go through the giant panda.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't something like that. Do you know when the most tackling used to occur is when you do like a 1v1 or like a 2v2 sessions? I used to love doing those. So say a 2v2 for a minute and a half, which sounds not a lot, but you'd have a 2v2, you get the ball off the goal's quite close to each other, and you just go at each other. And when you're tired, some of the tackles in those games, lunging, your last ditch tackles, and I mean, I've seen some horrific stuff in training.
What about the little piggy in the middle one? You know, the one where you've got to be in the middle and be the bitch?
Yeah.
And you're running around, so you're running around trying to get the ball, and then you just get pissed off. So you just take it.
Move someone, yeah. I mean, that goes on as high as level as I've got to in my life, that still goes on. If you're getting the piss taken out of you by players, you will. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna clump someone at the end.
But also, all the lads start making noises, don't they? It's like, "Hey!" And then it gets a bit silly and it's showboating.
Yeah. Do you know the official rules for like a piggy or a rondo?
No.
Yeah, so 20 passes you stay in again. Right?
Really?
So standard across all football, really. 20 passes you'll stay in, a meg you'll stay in. They're the main two, yeah. So
If the player on the outside miscontrols it, they're straight in?
straight in, yeah, no messing around. But you can contest it, but not for very long. You know, if it does get contested for a long time, just do a quick paper, scissors, stone. Man to man, in, quick fire.
Sort it out.
Do managers call it different things?
Yeah, there's different.
Because I can't imagine Benitez calling it a piggy.
Equally, Pulis is not calling it a rondo.
Yeah. Quick rondo, lads.
No, I mean, you know, be surprised. I mean, that rondo thing's caught on, but I grew up with it being piggy, and then it developed into we'll have to have a box, so it'd just be like a box,
Yeah.
because it'd be set out like a box.
Can you split managers into piggy, rondo, or box? Pulis is piggy.
Yeah,
Deitch piggy, or is that a misconception? He's a rondo man.
I think that's a misconception. Box,
Wenger? No way, he's a piggy.
it's a rondo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a rondo. I also like with that drill, it's always the one where someone gets nutmegged and then you get the hello darkness, my old friend. Like, it's always that one.
It's
isn't
so
it?
exciting when you meg someone like that, you know. Like, my favourite is a double meg, you know. Like, so like someone will come in, they'll get megged, and then they'll be fuming, like, lunge into another one and get megged
Double
again.
megs.
Yeah. And it's so you just want to kill someone, but the lads are too busy laughing, so you can't.
What's the longest, when you're talking about that awful situation, you're stuck in there and you can't get out and you're in there, what's the longest you've seen a single player stuck?
I've seen it get to the point where they've been in for pretty much the whole time that we've been there, and the manager or coach will wrap it up.
They throw in the towel for them?
Yeah, throwing the towel for them.
What's been the most satisfying nutmeg you've ever done?
I did one when I was at Stoke. I've done a couple in the box where I've got this little trick where, you know, you like a little flip flap.
Yeah.
You flip flap one through.
Just
his leg.
explain a flip flap.
Well, a flip flap's like starts with the heel and just like a flap in. The Brazilian Ronaldo used to have it in the
Ronaldo.
bag, yeah, and he used to have it like proper sharp one. One of those, yes. I've done a couple of legs like that. They was nice. Do you remember Burkamp used to have that one? We used to just drag it round. Carnu. Do you remember Carnu's little?
Loved it.
Oh, he used to have the drag in the bag, didn't he? Sexual, isn't it?
Horny.
But when Burkamp, it was one where he dragged it all the way round and put it through. It might have been Davizaz,
legs. Yeah.
I mean, that's what you watch football for. I used to love watching that.
So my favourite defender, arguably ever, is Paul Robinson. I heard this story that he was up against Ginola, and Ginola said to him in the tunnel, "I'm going to nutmeg you 3 times."
But sorry to interrupt, but I love the way you've Pulis Ginola.
Yeah, come on, it's Ginola, from where I'm from.
Cantona?
No, that's Cantona.
Cantona.
So Ginola, right, was with Paul Robinson. I'm sure he's going to hear this and he'll be able to say whether it's true or not. Ginola said that he was going to nutmeg him 3 times. Robinson said he was just going to put him in the stands. Now,
Fair
which
enough.
one of those 2 things happened?
Yeah,
you
well,
reckon?
probably all of them.
He got nutmegged 3 times, apparently.
Did he really?
Yeah,
no,
actually.
he said that and they did it.
Actually did it after saying it.
Oh, no.
But I love the idea that Robinson would have been flying in with these challenges just to try and
just
put him
making
out.
him.
And then, just missing every time. Because also as a striker, surely one of the most satisfying things is watching a defender come in for the tackle from distance. You know they're going to clobber you and you just pull the ball back ever so slightly and watch them sort of slide in front of you.
Do you know on the flip side of that is I've heard like defenders, the best I ever saw it was Wes Brown. Wes Brown, when we were playing England under 21s, I think, so he would be 70-30 in his favour, but he'd let the sort of winger get to the ball, but he knew he'd slowed it down to the point where he knew that he would, on the moment he touched the ball, he would be smashed into the stand, basically. And he was brilliant at it. Honestly, it was a skill.
He would deliberately
And
turn a 70-30 in his favour till a 40-60.
He could easily have ushered the ball out, or he could have, got to the ball first and maybe shielded it off. But he delayed his run to the point where he just knew that he was going to get man and ball. So it's no foul. It's just a very aggressive tackle. And I actually watched Phil Barnsley was probably the second best person I saw do that. Wait for the winger and then put him in the
Bang.
stand. It's a genuine skill.
What was your, like, you weren't a man who loved tackling, but when you look back at your career, what was your single favourite tackle?
Sort of towards the end of my career, I started becoming more and more dirty. I did, and I've never been quick, but I was slowing down a bit, and I was getting more frustrated with life, really, because I was spending a lot of time on the bench, and any sort of time I got on the pitch, I was, I wanted to impress, and I was aggressive, more aggressive than I ever was. And I did some tackles that I really, really regret in that time. But the worst tackle I ever did was on Obi Mikel.
I wanted to talk to you about this. I've got this. This is mad. So last night I trawled through videos of your tackles.
Yeah.
I got to admit, boys, it didn't take long to find this tackle. It's extraordinary. So all you got to do is go on YouTube and type in Peter Crouch crazy tackle. That's what it's called. It's had so many views as well.
Well,
so you try and describe this, Crouchy, and then you can talk.
I've got. Yeah, I mean, it's not pretty.
Oh, Crouchy! You've launched yourself in the air. There's no way you're touching the ball there. You've gone through both his legs.
Yeah, no, I've just completely lost the plot. I mean, we talk about red mist. I mean, I've lost it there. And I'll tell you why. He's been basically told to sort of mark in front of me. And he's basically standing all over my toes, and he'd been winding me up the entire game, and that, I just completely lost it. But yeah, not proud of it. I didn't catch him, thankfully, but...
well, I mean, you got quite a bit of...
Yeah, but I didn't go through. But because the red mist was that, because it was like an out-of-body experience. After the game, I thought he dived. And then afterwards, I got back and I thought, I'll have a look at that tackle. Yeah, I look at it and went, oh, no. That's in fact 3 red cards. Like, what on earth was I thinking? But it's just something that I can't explain.
Okay, so there must have been bad tackles on you as well.
Of course there was. I remember.
Is there one that you're still pissed off
There's
about?
one, yeah, there is one. 2002, I'm going back to, right? And there was no reason for it whatsoever. Paul Devlin did one on me in the corner.
He's a nutter.
Well, yeah, I was like, I had the ball and I was sort of shielding it, and then all of a sudden, I mean, he's done that to me, but 2-footed me in the Achilles.
Oh, red card?
You didn't get one, no.
What?
Do you think he meant it?
Oh, 100%. There's tackles where you can mistime them, and there's ones where you go out to do someone. And like I did with Mikel there. I mean, I've gone out to do him. I've not tried to get the ball and I've launched in. And it's something, obviously, I'm not proud of, but that's what I did. And that hasn't happened many times in my career. Like, I've gone in strong, but I haven't gone in to hurt.
Do you think Devlin was told to do that by Warnock?
100%. Yeah.
So is your problem with Warnock?
No, I don't know really. It's just that was one that wound me up. But no, I'm not that bothered.
I know you're not that bothered, but it would be interesting if Paul Devlin was to hear about this.
Oh, he'd laugh his head off.
You reckon?
Oh yeah, done him.
What's the worst tackle then a friend of yours has done on you?
Martin Skirtle, playing for Slovakia and I'm playing for England, and he's my teammate. And he used to jump off my thigh.
He'd use you as a Crouchy
So
springboard.
he'd literally put his studs on your thigh and jump off and get more leverage. Win the header after the game. My stud marks all over my thighs, like the whole way up. I'm literally showing the ref and he just can't understand where they're coming from. When you look at an aerial challenge, you're all looking at the ball and you're looking at the header. You're not looking at what's going on underneath. And he was doing that to me all game. Every time I said to him, Mark, I knew him. I played with Liverpool with him. And I said, any chance? And he said, oh, Crouchy, sorry. And then he just do it again. For the entire game.
Crouchy's done the robot again because it's 100 Premier League goals for Peter Crouch.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
So, Crouchy, people are used to the idea of Paul Scholes, unbelievably talented footballer who apparently couldn't tackle. So 97 yellow cards, 4 red cards in the Premier League, and of course he missed that Champions League final in 1999 through suspension.
I actually spoke to Paul Scholes recently, so I've got a little bit of knowledge on this, of getting inside the mind. He said to me, from where he's from, you had to be tough and you had to put tackles in, and it just so happened that he was one of the most naturally gifted footballers that England have ever produced. And he had the other side to his game where he was an absolute genius at times, class player, but he was rock solid, hard, and he liked to tackle. And he said to me, if someone put one in on me, I'd always store it and I'd always get them back. And he said, there's still a few that I need to get back.
What?
Yeah, seriously.
How's he going to do that? Launch into in the studio?
Even though he's retired, he's still got a few that he wanted to get back. So, yeah, I wouldn't buy into the fact that Paul Scholes is a bad tackler. I'd buy into the fact that Paul Scholes holds his own. Paul Scholes puts in a few tackles, and when you're playing at Old Trafford, he became this genius in that sort of quarterback position in many ways. So I used to try and get round him and try and tackle him and stuff, and I couldn't get anywhere near him. As soon as you got close to him, he'd one-touch it. Like, he'd play a 1-2 round you. A couple of triangles all round you make you look stupid. As soon as you stood off him, he'd be picking passes 60, 70 yards onto people's toes. Yeah, absolute genius. But then he was hard as well, so he could mix it. And yes, obviously some of them were bad, and he was suspended quite a few times, wasn't he? But I wouldn't say any of those tackles are badly mistimed. I just think they're aggressive tackles that warranted yellow cards.
Just thinking then, who's on his list still to go, do we reckon? who do we reckon?
I reckon there's a few Arsenal players on that list.
Keown's on it.
There's definitely a few Arsenal players on that
It's like
list.
an alternative Santa, this dude,
Yeah,
isn't he?
I reckon there's a few City players. Must be a few Liverpool players on there.
Do you think he crosses? He's got a little black book and he puts a little cross next to it, and each year he thinks, okay, this year I've got to get Keown, I've got to get Bold.
He's looking at the lineup for Soccer Aid every year.
It's true. 1 year, you've got to be suspicious if Paul Scholes does Soccer Aid.
All of a sudden, Paul Scholes is bang up for Soccer Aid, having a snap next to Usain Bolt.
And Jonathan Wilkes.
Hold on a minute. Who else is involved in
Yeah. Do you think you were ever on Scholes' naughty list?
I mean, he might have smashed me a couple of times, but I can't remember any particular instance.
You look worried.
Oh, no. Just,
I'm not surprised. I'm always surprised. Like, we've heard him talk a lot now. Every time I hear him speak, I'm always surprised by how deep his voice is. Whereas Jamie Carragher's got a much higher voice than you'd expect from a man. It's almost like they've swapped voices. Like, the smaller man should have the high-pitched voice, and then Carragher should have the deep Scholes voice.
Can't imagine him in real life being a sort of cuddly guy, you know?
Do you know one of the best things that because I interviewed him for a show at the end? This was the most Paul Scholes answer of all time. I just said, "So, can you describe yourself in 3 words?" And he said, "No."
That's it. That's enough. You're on his list.
I think you're on the list, mate.
That's what the nose says. The nose says, I'm getting you.
No, because the interview was great and he was amazing. He opened up about his career. I'm talking about some of his goals. And, when you go through some of the goals he scored, I mean, wow.
Ridiculous.
Incredible,
Paul Scholes missed the Champions League final in 1999. Have you seen Crouchy? When Chelsea qualified for the final in 2012, when Ivanovic is told by Jeff Shreves post-match that he's missing the final, and until that point, he has no idea.
Crushing blow, isn't it?
So if people haven't seen it, how does he react?
Well, it's like, what, really? In a different accent. I'm not doing accents anymore. But I mean, he doesn't know that he's going to miss the final, and Jeff Shreves tells him, and it's a horrible way to find out, isn't it?
He pretends initially he's not bothered, doesn't he? And then you can see the reaction in his face, and sort of his eyes go a bit, and he almost looks like he's going to start crying.
That's horrific. I don't know. I only played in one Champions League final in 2007. If in that game I'd have got suspended, I'd be devastated. There's no denying it. You can't say you wouldn't be.
But do you think that's where football's cruel? Because you're punished sometimes for big tackles. As a striker, you're not getting booked for missing a shot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's a harsher punishment from being a defender, I think, than being a striker like yourself.
I mean, there's good times to be suspended, Christmas being one of those. There's pros and cons.
Has anyone ever got suspended deliberately for Christmas?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me that. And I'll be honest, I don't think there was... I was speaking to Kevin Nolan, believe it or not, recently about this. He said to me it was a genuine coincidence, but he'd been suspended for like 3 or 4 Christmases. And people had put it on him, but he genuinely said to me that he never meant it.
Do you know the worst thing about that is he's clearly done it once and then
enjoyed it.
He's done it twice. He's done it.
Had a great Christmas.
I don't want to. I'm making up a scenario here, but it's quite likely whoever he's with has then expected him at Christmas, so he's like, I'm in too deep now. Like, I can't do it a third time. She's said you're here every Christmas. What makes this year different? So he's gone and done it.
The family's had a lovely trip to Lapland.
And the problem is, it's expected.
Lapland was brilliant last year.
We're going again,
He
Dad?
comes flying into Joey Barton 2-footed on Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas.
Crouch going for the spectacular. Oh, what a goal from Peter Crouch!
That Peter Crouch Podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Well, I know we've got some more messages from listeners ready to go, but before that, Chris, any advertising updates?
We had this offer about sending the podcast into space. Apparently there's no sound in space.
There's no sound in space.
There's no sound in space.
That's what someone said to me. I was like, what the fuck are you talking
Right,
about?
okay.
Like,
Do you know what I think this is?
You know when a meteorite hurtles through, you're telling me it makes no sound whatsoever?
Yeah,
It can't. It can't. The space is a vacuum, so sound is air molecules vibrating. So me speaking to you, I'm making air molecules between my mouth and your ear vibrate.
Well, so how do spacemen speak to each other?
Exactly. And also, when they did the lunar landing, are you then saying that's not real?
No, what I'm saying is it wasn't a vacuum inside their spacesuits. Otherwise, their faces would be sucked out of their heads.
So it's a microphone in the.
They got a little, which is why they go.
Yeah, Crouchy, lunar landing is in progress.
So there is sound in space.
So when they're in the spaceship, though, they haven't got their helmets on.
Yeah, but in space itself, inside the spaceship, it's not a vacuum. Otherwise, all their insides would be coming out of their mouths.
If there was a floating radio in space, you would hear nothing from it.
What's it plugged into?
No, it's a wireless. It's a wireless.
Battery powered.
Yeah.
Battery powered.
No, you wouldn't. I don't think.
You would hear no sound.
No.
Big shout.
That's That's I don't quite buy that either. To be honest with you, it's you saying the only place you can have sound is on planet Earth.
No, it would have to be if there was another planet which also had an atmosphere, so there were air molecules. If people want to correct me on this, I'll hold my hand up.
Yeah, but don't large it now. You've just said there's no sound in space, and now you seem to be backtracking.
I should say the advertising is going well. What I was
swiftly
originally
changing.
saying was that we.
Moving on.
I've been told there's no sound in space. so what we're going to do is we're going to send up something from the podcast into space. This could happen. So we're thinking either like a cuddly Alsatian toy or the Iniesta photo, something like that.
Carl?
I quite like the idea of sending
Saying
up.
Carl into space.
Oh yeah,
Could we not saying Carl?
piss off. Right up into space.
You know, when before the Russians put Yuri Gagarin into space, they sent that dog up, Laika.
Yeah.
Could Carl be our Laika?
Yeah, we could just turf Carl out and
See what happens.
and just see if there's any noise.
I had this great idea. I briefly discussed it with you, Crouchy. You get mad views on adult websites.
Me personally? Or?
No, not you. No, I've never, although I've never typed Peter Crouch into Pornhub and seen what comes up. I don't know.
Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. I hope nothing comes up. I say that.
But you've thought about it.
No, I've just thought about it just now. But no, what I was saying is I saw a review which described this podcast, which is reigning the charts, as audio porn. And it got me thinking, if we want a mad amount of views, why don't I upload the podcast to like an adult website? Because you get mad amounts of views on it.
Is that not because that's porn? And this isn't, though.
I'm not suggesting anyone pleasures themselves to this whilst listening to it, on that. But I'm just thinking more for the views and that.
It's not something I've thought about. I'll be honest. But like you say, if it works.
My laptop is BBC property, so I don't really want to. If you could do that on your own laptop, it would just deal with a load of logistical headaches.
Yeah. All right, well, look, it's something to think on. And equally, if you are listening to this and you've got an idea about how you can pass the pod, help us out, help get this thing out and about, please let us know. And you can email us with your ideas, peter.crouch@bbc.co.uk. This is from Patrick. Says, apparently you used to have a prank call using audio of an angry man who would accuse people of sleeping with his girlfriend. What the hell is this?
Look at Crouchy's face, a
You would-
massive yes.
You would set it up on your Nokia phone in James Beattie's BMW and do it outside Southampton Leisure World. Did this happen?
I just don't know how these people know this.
What's this?
But how on earth does Patrick know? If it's me and James Beattie and no one else other than my mate who we pranked.
How did it work? What did the angry man say?
Well, he basically was like, all right, no, I won't do any demos.
Hold on, I'm a bit confused. So you were ringing people with James Beattie pretending to be
There was this message going round, right, where, did you ever see it? No.
Oh,
the message going round.
automated?
Yeah, an automated message that you could call people off a private number and then it would say, oh, you've been sleeping with my wife. And they would say, no, I haven't. And he said, I know where you live, I'm coming round. And then they would say, no, you're not. And then this went to perfection. It was my mate Herman, and we called him, and we were literally outside the cinema at Southampton Leisure World. So he got it spot on, James Beattie, I don't think had a BMW, but we were in the car and we rang, and it was just brilliant.
Why were you and James Beattie in a car outside Leisure World? Is that just how you spent your time?
He looked after me, really, yeah. So he knew I was on my own. He used to just pick me up. We used to go to cinema or go for lunch or something like that. And on this particular, it was a slow day.
Nothing on at the multiplex.
It was a slow day. Films didn't look great. It was a good time. Good time in my life, that. Enjoyed it.
Here's a message from Zach. How many footballs does a Premier League club have?
You'll have a different ball for the Carabao Cup, you'll have a different ball for the FA Cup, and you'll train with that ball. So there's a lot of balls, basically.
Do they keep track of the number of balls there are?
Yeah.
Do they have someone with a black Sharpie writing ball number 4, ball number 5? Because when you look at training grounds, you're just booting balls everywhere.
That's true, but if one goes over the fence or over the building and you lose one, it's a 50 quid fine.
They will stop a game for a period of time to get the ball back, and I always wonder why don't they just lob another ball on? But it's like they won't let the crowd go home with a ball. Every ball has to be accounted for. And I'm thinking, like, people are paying good money and tickets. Like, why are we waiting for this ball to get back? Like, just lob another one out.
The kit man is so precious with all the kit. Balls and stuff, they'll count them before training, and if it's not the same, then one of the young lads will have to go out and find
Always
it.
one of the young lads.
I was a bit drunk at a Maidenhead game not that long ago, and the ball kept going over the fence at the back, and I happened to be stood next to the gate where this dude would run and then have to go out to the back to go find the ball. And I got chatting to him, and his job is to go and find the balls that go over the fence and go out. So when one of the times it happened during this match, I thought I'd go along with him and just see how it is. And it was amazing.
See how it is.
I was like, can I come with you? But it was an amazing experience because what I loved about this guy is, I don't know if he's been paid by the football club, but his dedication to getting that one ball back. And I've always found that funny about football, that they go mad for the balls, don't they?
What quote that? I wish you'd isolate that quote.
No.
That's an amazing thing about football. They go mad for those balls.
It's like a Victorian explanation of association football.
That's
isn't
literally
it?
that's like if Avi had to describe football. It's amazing that football. Loads of men, they just go mad for those balls.
Your mate Chris, who's hunting down the balls.
Mate, he looked like Ray Mears. You know, like someone that sort of is out in the kind of... He looked slightly feral. What's wrong with you?
God. Ray Mears.
What's funny about Ray Mears?
Just in a bush in Hertfordshire. He's not... He's not in the outback, is he?
But Ray Mears had to start somewhere.
It's Maidenhead as well. It's not in Hertfordshire.
Oh,
I'll get angry about it's Berkshire.
Maidenhead. I thought you were talking about...
That's what we
It
should
was
do.
Watford.
Let's arrange for Ray Mears to go to Maidenhead and hunt the balls.
Track the balls. Because he would look at and he would see just a leaf that was bent back 30 degrees more, and the ball has passed.
Big part of football, that when you're playing as a kid, like when the ball goes over, it's like, no, obviously the unwritten rule is like whoever kicks it over goes to get it. Things that you go through there to get that ball back.
Is there a difference between the balls? I've always wondered this. Is, say, your Carabao Cup ball different to your Premier League ball?
Yeah, there's a big difference in the ball. The Premier League ball is probably a more true ball. And when I say that, I mean, like, there's not a lot of movement. Like, say, if you're having a shot, I mean, this probably sound weird, but it's definitely, like, with the smaller, it's a smaller mitre ball for the Carabao Cup. And I think
Smaller?
It's not officially smaller, but it's definitely smaller.
They use smaller balls in the...
I'm telling you now, it's not classed as a smaller ball,
But it is smaller.
It definitely is. I mean, it's a size 5 standard procedure, but it's a smaller ball. And it's a different. It's not as, it moves more, and there's a difference with every ball.
Best ball?
Different wise. Believe it or not, I had a Minerva.
Oh, I loved a Minerva.
I had a Minerva in the early days, and that was very, very similar to a Carabao Cup ball. The Jubilanji obviously got a lot of stick for the World Cup
What was it called?
2006. The Jubilanji, is that what it's called? Well, do you know what? It's a great film, and it's also a shit ball.
It's close enough.
Was it the Jabulani or whatever?
Jabulani.
Jabulani. Well, it's fucking crap anyway. It was an awful ball, that. Honestly, it was just moving around all over the
Flew,
place.
didn't it,
Yeah, well, they were trying to make it, I think, more goals and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's less goals. I mean, you try and read across with that, it literally takes off. It was bizarre. But then you go back to like some of the old World Cups where I think of 78.
Tempo?
Tango.
Tango, that's
Remember the
what I mean,
Tango?
yeah.
How come it was the Tango?
You described the balls earlier as true, and it's stressing me out a little bit because I know we're a couple of drinks in. All I've got in my head going round is that ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
So true.
I know this ball is true.
Can we go home now?
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
So that was Tackles. The next episode is going to be about agents, and it's Nuns Week.
Oh, yeah. You excited, Tom?
Hugely.
I think the important thing is that nobody mentions this. We want to do this on the down low. You know what I mean? We just do it. And then we can just put the clips out on social media. So I think we just need to go away, get our headdresses, and you guys just need to keep your eyes peeled.
Lovely. Well, this is also the bit where I recommend another podcast to listen to. However, boys, in the last episode, we gave a shout out to Tailenders. Collectively, we would like to retract that comment, wouldn't we? Because not only they started pinching our catchphrases, we've had some back stronger from Jimmy Anderson, but they're getting nominated against us for big awards, aren't they?
Yeah, and I don't think we need to make out that it's any kind of rivalry, but it just seems inappropriate to be bigging up a podcast that is actually essentially in the same category for this particular award. You wouldn't do it in football, would you?
No, I mean, it's like Liverpool bigging up Man United.
Okay, that's Tailenders seen off. This week's shout out goes out to the Scott Mills Daily. Chris, very good show. I imagine you'd have some chat on that for us.
Yeah, decent radio show this. I mean, I'm totally biased, I'm on it, but I was promised that we can get one plug in for it, so here it is.
Right, I'm off to list that now. Bollocks. See you next time, boys.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.